Hello and welcome to a new series of RIARC. I don't know whether you're going to like what we have on offer tonight, but one way or another it should help to make you more thankful for some of the ordinary things of life. Things like a home, a good education, a job, the ability to hold a job, a little money in the bank or post office. These are ordinary things, and yet not everybody has them.
It takes 5 butts to make a cigarette. The butts are easily found if you know the right places to look, and they provide enough tobacco to make a king-size cigarette. The paper you'll have to provide yourself, and it takes quite a bit of skill and practice to pack and roll it so that it doesn't shed its precious cargo of tobacco as soon as you place it between your lips. But it's well worth the trouble, and when you have it finished, you can look forward to 7 or 8 minutes of something approaching happiness. Poverty takes many forms and exists in many degrees. Modern society has banished poverty to this extent that no one need die of hunger anywhere in Dublin today. Even the most destitute knows that he'll get enough food to keep alive, and that is something for those who have nothing else. And there are those who have nothing else, no home, no work, no income, no prospects of any kind. The clothes they wear have been cast off by others. They are unemployed and unemployable. They are studied by sociologists, watched by police, surveyed by statisticians, condemned by the righteous, and given alms by the soft-hearted. They exist rather than live, sheltered by state and religious institutions, fed by charitable organisations, avoided by their fellow citizens, moved along by the authorities, jeered at by children. They lead the most public and the most private of lives. Everyone knows them to see, but scarcely anyone knows them to talk to, or understands just how or why they have drifted into their present hopelessness.
So trouble, like going in and out of prison the last 20 years. I started off in a reform school in 1944. Got 2 years in Tangan. Never since that then, when I'm in them now. I'm only at the finishing the term of penal servitude.
How long?
3 years.
And when you get out of prison like that, do you have your money and clothes?
Oh
and
yes, you're allowed to earn 6pence a day while you're in prison. That's 3 and 6 a week.
Well, you must have had a few bob after 3 years, huh?
Well, I had £8 a hand actually, because there was 1 and 9 like for to spend and 1 and 9 like to keep, like for going out.
Well, was that not enough to give you a start?
No, Father, that wasn't enough.
What did you do with the money when you came out?
Well, actually, when I came out, I met a few of the lads and we went off drinking, celebrating.
So it was all gone?
It was all gone.
And have you any prospects of starting into a job now?
No, Father. No prospects at all.
Well, you see, if I went to work, I can't stay in jobs. My old head goes to me. I can't stay in a job.
I see.
I might lose my temper
Yes.
and I might start cursing, swearing, and I still say about this place.
Yes.
They won't give much, they won't give that.
I know.
Well, I used to say that a lot.
I'm out of work now about a month exactly now.
Yeah. And where were you working before?
But the last place I was working now was with the Dublin Corporation.
Yes.
And I happened to be sent to a place where I didn't know, and when I come back on the report that I couldn't find when I was sacked, I was told there was no use on the job, like. I made a claim into labour, I was told I couldn't get none, that I wasn't long enough in Dublin, and that I wasn't residing long enough in Dublin.
Yes.
And that they were sorry they couldn't give me anything.
So there's nothing at all coming?
There's nothing at all, no.
Up to I was nearly 20. I was worked mostly as a messenger boy.
Yes.
And I've done 17.5 years in the army. I'm out now 2.5 years.
And you've no pension from the army, have you not?
No.
Why not?
Well, I came out before I'd done the 21.
And so you get nothing at all from the army then?
No.
Did they find work for you when you left?
No.
After a year idle now, will you find it hard to set to and start working again?
Well, now, for instance, you could say, well, now I'm after being out of a job for a long time. I'll stick as long as I can.
I know.
Get a couple of stamps, and that'll keep me for a while.
Well, I could get back to work tomorrow myself, I know that for a fact, but at the present moment I'm just messing about until I find myself some proper accommodations, and then I'll...
Well, do you find this an easier and more pleasant kind of life than a working life? I mean, you don't have anything to do.
No, I'd rather be working myself, you know. I'd rather have something to do, but at the present moment, you just don't care what you're doing.
The day can be long when there's nothing in particular to do and nowhere in particular to go, but eventually you work out some kind of daily timetable for yourself. There are day shelters where you can go to get out of the rain or out of the cold, or just to sit down somewhere and take the weight off your feet. If you come at the right time, you may be given a cup of tea and a slice of bread. Fine weather, there are the public parks where you can sit and enjoy the sun. And when the day is bad, there are the public libraries where you can get a look at the day's newspapers, and where the central heating is strong enough to dry out wet clothes. Sometimes you walk around, but walking on city pavements is tiring, and most of the time you sit and talk, or just sit. It isn't very exciting, but it puts in the time, and somehow or other the minutes pass and add up into hours. At first you feel the uselessness of it all, but after a while it becomes a habit, and you don't feel anything anymore.
Oh, well, just mostly come up here in the morning, get a drink of tea, leave here then, and on my way down I'll go in and get the tickets for to go down and get me dinner into Longford Lane, you know.
What's Longford Lane?
Well, it's a place run by the nuns down at Whitefriars Street where they make the food, like, for people.
Yeah.
And
you get your dinner there?
Yeah, it's cheap, like, you know. And after that then I'll probably walk about the city messing about until it's time for go back into the back lane for the night, or into the Iveagh or wherever I'm going to go to stop, you know.
Yeah. What's the sack for?
Gather the old bottles.
You gather bottles
Yeah.
and you put them in the sack?
Yeah.
And where would you get the bottles?
Well, I get them all around this part of the city.
You go into houses, do you, and ask
No,
them?
I go in, I never ask people. People know that they give me money, but I never ask them for people money. They say, they gave me a tenner there one time ago, and another woman gave me a £1 note one Sunday, and I thought she said, don't go near the bins, because sometimes there's cop race gets onto me, and the people won't let you near the bins at all.
Yes.
And I don't like saying it to people, because they might ring for the police out here, that's what I'm afraid of.
So you just take the bottles out of the bins, do you?
Yeah.
How much do you get for the bottles?
I only get a shilling every day. Sometimes I get 2 shillings.
Well, a lot of them, like, goes into bookie shops.
Yes.
And they do bet on horses.
Yeah. Where would they get the money?
Well, I suppose on the dole, you know.
Yes. Dole wouldn't last you very long.
It doesn't last, no. Suppose a lot of them tries to get away from that, you know. But if they got something to do, they wouldn't go so bad on them.
Yes.
They take their mind off
Yeah.
it.
Well, when I get a few bob, I buy a smoke, buy a bit of grub, and if I've anything over, then I try me looking to bookies with it.
And supposing you get a win on the bookies?
Well, if it's anyway reasonable, I go in and have a few drinks. Well, if it's not, then we'll hold it to tomorrow.
When a man gets a few shillings and the first thing he's going to do is he's fed up hanging about, walking about, and he'll go into a pub and he'll have a few drinks, and the next thing he drinks his rent money, and that's it. He's out.
Well, I think I'll take your advice and try and stop that gambling, Father. Say a prayer that I stop it. Try and say a prayer.
Sure, I suppose life wouldn't be worth living if you didn't have a few horses now and again coming up, huh?
Of course, you must be a bit
National
cheerful,
and
you
that.
must.
That's true.
You cannot go around with a long face. You can't. Or you're being scrapping like some of these fellas.
What about dinner now? Where would you get your
I
dinner?
got the flour there, and every Monday and
That's
Tuesday.
the little flour.
Meath Street.
Meath
And then I go
Street.
to Henry Street.
How much do they charge you at the little flour place?
Tuppence.
And what sort of a dinner would you get?
Get stew every day,
Yeah.
and soup, and 3 cuts of bread, but still I'm not able for it. I do throw in the delivery with the boards.
Do you?
And I go into the green and I just see the boards on the ground and throw in a bit of bread, you know.
But most of the diners at the Little Flower Centre are well able for the food that is provided for them. The Little Flower Centre is only one of a number of food centres spread all over the city that provide a substantial hot meal in the middle of the day for many hundreds of people. The charge is nominal, and those who don't have even the few pence for the meal ticket are given a meal just the same. You get a main course of meat and vegetables for your money, followed by dessert and a cup of tea with a couple of slices of bread. Everything is provided except the cutlery. So you provide your own spoon and make sure to take it safely away with you again for the next time. But if food is easy to obtain, drink is a different matter. Drink costs money, even that mixture of cheap wine and methylated spirits that's called red biddy. And there are other expenses that can arise: a packet of new cigarettes, a ticket for a football match, a flutter on the dogs or on the horses. For all these things you need hard cash, and if you're not going to earn it, you'll have to beg for it. Begging in the street may land you in trouble unless you're careful, but convents and presbyteries are safe enough, and if judiciously worked, can provide a steady source of revenue.
You'd see that Father such and such in such a place was giving out 2 bob or a shilling,
Yes.
or maybe a half a crown.
Yes.
They say he's a good guy.
Yes.
So he says, you get down there, I've had it already. So I goes away and I does my best to get that half crown.
Yeah. Well, you not think you might be drying up the golden goose that way?
It might happen that way, but when you're in desperation, you never think of anything else.
Yes.
See, you're thinking of your bed at night. You say, well, if I get a half crown from Father O'Brien, we'll say, and I get a tenner from somebody else, and maybe a shilling from a friend, I'll have the price of my bed, and I won't be in the park tonight.
That's it. You often say them arguing among themselves.
Yeah.
What's the best way to get the money?
Yeah.
What is the best way, and who will they ask?
Yes.
Yeah.
And do some of them make a lot of money out of this kind of living?
Oh, they do, yes.
How much would they make?
No, I stopped one person yesterday, and she showed me near 10 bob in tanners. She was after collecting off of every person.
Just stopping them on the street?
Stopping them on the street, yeah.
Well, do some of them have a regular place that they go to each day of the week, like, and people...
All regular customers.
Have they?
All, yes, regular.
How much money would they make in the week now? Like a fellow who was really good at this?
A fella's really good at it, so I'd say he'd make near £2.10 at it.
Would he?
Goes around the whole place, yes.
£2.10 a day, would he?
Yes. Goes outside this territory.
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
Well, these...
That's the chap over there I was telling you about, the fella.
Yes.
He's one of them top notchers.
And he makes about £2.10
£2.10, yeah, that.
Well, he's not around here now, is he?
And he'd go over to this convent that we were speaking about.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you know that convent?
Yes.
Milltown.
Yes.
He'd visit that place.
Yes, and he'd get a free...
And he'd get it free.
Free tea
and
a
bit of charity off of them.
Yes.
See.
How did they manage... Are these fellas good talkers, or how do they manage to get the charity so easily off people? I'm sure you don't find it so easy.
You see, there is people that doesn't talk.
Yeah.
Well, these live fellas, you see, is able to get around these fellas.
I know.
That's the whole trouble.
Yeah.
Yes, there are fellas very good at it. I suppose they were born to it. Some say they were born with their hand out. Well, I don't know. I leave that to the tinker or somebody like him. But any man that came from a family that was reared in a good family, he'd never beg. I couldn't beg. I might go to a priest, as I said, and get a shilling after a fella told me where to go. And I honestly, when I do go, it's like facing fixed bayonets.
I often seeing the men down and out in the road coming down. You'd be standing at the car. I often seen him turn around, giving a man the price of his bed to get a bed for the night. I often seen a man pulling up a very well-off man and asking him if he could help him out towards the bed, and I've often heard the man tell him to get out of it, get the cops for you. So there's a difference between the poor man and the rich man. The man that's down will always help his men that's down with him.
Yes.
And the men that are up always like to keep the men that are down well down.
When evening begins to draw on, the question of where you're going to spend the night becomes uppermost in your mind. As more and more of Dublin's old houses are being boarded up and marked for demolition, it becomes more and more difficult to find a place to sleep. The old tenement houses usually had a corner in the hall or on the stairway where you could curl up for a few hours, but the tenement houses are fast disappearing. The lodging houses are going too, places where you could get a bed for a shilling a night or less, but now rapidly being reduced to mounds of rubble beneath the pickaxes of the demolition squads. If you're an outdoor type, there's plenty of alleys and disused lots and all the broad acres of the Phoenix Park to choose from. But in the winter time you like to have a roof over your head. So when evening approaches you set off for one of the city hostels and hope for the best. Dublin has quite a wide range of hostels for men, with something to suit nearly every taste and pocket. The Iveagh Hostel is one of the best, but also one of the most expensive. At 4 and 6 a night for bed without breakfast, it's within the reach of the more affluent only. The Morning Star Hostel caters for a lower income bracket. This large stone building off North Brunswick Street is under the care of Brothers of the Legion of Mary, and an average of 140 sleep here every night, with supper before they go to bed and breakfast in the morning before they leave. For all this they pay 1 and 10 a night. The building was once a workhouse and still has something of the grim appearance of the old-style poorhouse, but inside it has a dining room, billiards and reading rooms and television. But even if you don't have the 1 and 10 for the Morning Star, there's always Back Lane, one of the hostels that makes no charge at all. But there is one snag: you can only stay 14 days at a time. If you finished your fortnight, or if the hostel is full when you get there, your prospects are not so bright.
Well, when you finish the 14 nights in Back Lane, what will you do then?
Well, I'll go into a tenement house, throw myself down in the old hallway or on the stairs.
Would that not be very cold?
No, Father. Well, it does be cold, Father, but what can you do?
Well, is there any way you can get any heat at night like that?
No, Father. It's the only thing in the morning. You go into the Meath Chapel at 5:30, me has a sleep there. About 7 or 7:30.
You just sit in the back of the chapel?
Just sit in the back of the chapel and go to sleep.
I'm sure all the Franciscans think you're very holy men. Huh?
Oh, they do, but we only go in for a sleep, and we go on the road again, tramp around all day. So what can we do?
Where have you been sleeping out these nights?
Up in the park, Father.
What's it like out in the park?
Oh, it's all right these nights, just that it gets cold in the mornings.
Would you not go into some house or something like that? Could you not sleep in a stairway? Or...
Oh, well, I suppose you could, but you're taking a chance of a policeman maybe walking in.
And is it
That's
safer
right.
up in the park?
Oh, I'd say it is, because, well, you're out of the way and you can...
Do you go on a
yourself
seat?
under bushes and that.
Yeah, do you go on a park seat or something?
No.
Where do you
Father,
sleep?
on the ground.
I sleep out in the park generally.
In the Phoenix Park?
In the
is it?
Phoenix Park, yeah.
Well, do you sleep on a bench or on the grass?
No, I get over under the trees or bushes with a couple of newspapers and I lie in there and shiver away till the morning.
And is it very cold?
Very cold, and it does rain sometimes. You come down very wet out and you no place to dry yourself. You have to walk around all day then until the next night. You go to them in the city, you try them in the city, you can't get in there, there's only 4 beds there. You go to the back lane, you're not long enough out, you must be out 2 months. So you go to the park again that night, sleep out again, do the same thing all over again.
Well, they say they prefer the winter.
Why?
I was speaking to a chap this morning in that cafe. He says, I wouldn't have the seat at all, I'd rather prefer the winter.
Yeah.
Because it's more healthier, he says.
Yes.
Back Lane Night Shelter, like the Morning Star, is run by a religious organisation, in this case the Society of St Vincent de Paul. Each of these hostels has its own chapel and priests are available to talk to. But first of all, the physical needs of the men are met. Besides ordinary washing facilities, there are also facilities for washing and drying clothes, and these are fully availed of. But the immediate aim is to satisfy the immediate need, to provide food and shelter for the hungry and homeless. Christian charity demands something more than just this, and the men who run these hostels try to do that something more. They try to help their clients to reconstruct their lives, to recover their self-respect, to break out of the vicious circle of destitution and apathy in which they have become imprisoned. It's always a difficult task, and with the older men it's almost an impossible one. For 10, 20, 30 years they've known no other way of life. Physically, mentally, emotionally, they're unable to fend for themselves, to find work, or if work is found for them, to keep it. Something positive and constructive can be done with the younger men, however, to prevent them from swelling the number of the chronically workless. The St Vincent de Paul brothers who run Back Lane are well aware of the dimensions of the problem with which they have to cope.
Do you think there are many men who are in this position in Dublin at the moment?
I've often been asked that, but sometimes I guess 1,000, sometimes I guess 2,000. I just don't know.
That's a tremendous figure. Would that be increasing? Are there a lot of young men coming into that position now?
There are, unfortunately, over the last 5 or 6 years, I've noticed a big increase in the number of younger men coming in here. The age groups say are from 17 up to 24. And it's a pity, really, because anyway, we keep them as short a time as possible. I think it's a bad thing for them.
Why do you think more young people are coming?
I don't know. I think a lot of them want to start from industrial schools without a proper trade. And a lot of them, I think, have got into the habit of having more money than they used to have. And they think they get a little easier.
What about religion? Do you make any efforts in that line?
Oh, yes, we have a semi-public oratory here. And we have 4 Jesuit fathers come here 3 times a week. So I think that the religious aspect of it is fully catered for.
Well, is there any compulsion with regard to religion?
None at all, none.
Could you make any estimate about their religious practice in general of men who are not working like that?
I'm afraid I couldn't. I know that the men here, 99% of them, go to Mass when Mass is here. They go to the prayers at night, but whether they keep it up and after they leave here or not, I just couldn't tell you.
Would you have any suspicions in that respect?
I suspect that most of them don't.
Do they go to Mass at all, or Sundays and that kind of thing?
Well, you might get a few of them go, but I don't suppose they all go in, because a lot of them don't like going near the church because they're so rough, you know, they're dressed rough and they get kind of embarrassed for they go near the church, so they'd rather keep away than go with it, you know.
Yeah. What about your religion now? Do you go to Mass or anything like that?
Well, now and again I only go to Mass, now and again. Don't go every Sunday.
Praying, I think, is well, it's up to those who believe in it, but I mean, I've just kind of turned against it altogether, you know.
Well, do you have the feeling that the church is only for people who are well off? And
That's my opinion. For the man that's down and out, it doesn't seem to do him any good, and that's why they keep away from it, you know. Especially, thinking myself, I don't care an awful lot for it at the present moment.
Still, you get a lot of your livelihood from convents and presbyteries.
Oh, yeah.
Don't you?
Yeah, but you see, you put that down, you don't put that. I don't look at it as religion, I only look at it as good nature of a person, to give a man something.
No, I don't go to any masses.
Do many of the lads...
Most of them don't go to any, no.
Do you feel that God has abandoned you
I
then?
don't believe in him at all, to tell you the truth.
Used to go to Mass?
I used to. I was very good.
And what's brought this change about in you?
Because I see it's coming to the kind of a world, and I've thought it all out, and I don't believe in nothing. Give it all up. And I won't ever go back to it.
Well, is this because you feel you've been badly treated? And
Definitely I have been. But it's not that alone. That I make out there's no such thing as a God or anything else like that. Way back in the centuries, I think there was an awful lot of ignorant people that we called saints and all that kind of thing. And these people have been writing up a lot of rot that we call scripture. And we're more educated, at least a lot of them are. I mightn't be, but a lot are. But I have common sense enough myself to draw my own conclusions and say to myself, there's no God.
Still, when you go around to these convents and to priests and that kind of thing, and they help you, why do you think they help you?
Well, that's up to them. Let them think what they like. I think my way. If they give it to me for the love of the God, I take it. If there is a God there, I let him judge me.
Well, do you believe in an afterlife now, that when you die there'll be a...
I believe I'll die and I'll close my eyes and it'll get dark and I'll be put down in a hole and I'll rot and there'll be no more about me.
How do you look forward to that?
Well, it doesn't cost me at all. I say, I wouldn't mind if it happened tomorrow. I think I'd be better off. I definitely know that.
In some of the convents, they have retreats for the men that come. Did you ever go on a retreat like that?
No, I wouldn't go near it.
We have a retreat once a year, a day's retreat in the convent.
And it's
the
just an ordinary retreat, is it?
A day's retreat is given by one of the Jesuit fathers from Milltown Park.
And how many lads would come to the retreat?
About 60, anything from 60 to 100, Father.
Some of these mightn't have been practising at all.
No,
to then.
And each year, whoever gives the retreat always says it's worth having the retreat.
What's the reaction from the men themselves like to this?
They are very anxious to come. Most of them are anxious to come, but we find that some of our usual clients don't turn up at all.
I see.
Yes.
Many of those who frequent the hostels are still in their teens. Some are going through a temporary period of crisis, and with guidance and sympathy will soon find their feet again. But others seem to be quite contented with their lot, or at all events quite resigned to it. The dole, the relieving officer, the penny dinner, the cup of tea at the convent, the shilling in the street, the hostel or night shelter, these make up a way of life that is useless but livable, and quite attractive in its undemanding way. Mrs. Helen Burke of UCD's Sociology Department discussed some of the ways in which the problem might be tackled.
Well, I think there are two sides to this. We've got to ask ourselves first, what can we do about the people already in this sort of trouble? And then the other side of it is, what can we do to prevent people falling into this sort of trouble? For the people already chronically unemployed, I suppose we have to be able to provide a good minimum level of livelihood. But as long as the hostels are only places from where they can come and go, the incidence of them getting independent again will be lower. Other countries have found this, that you have to have people there who really push them back into ordinary life again. I think another way we can prevent it is having better services for our discharged prisoners. It's terribly important when somebody comes out of jail that he's somebody he can turn to, somebody who will help him get a job, find a place to live. Otherwise, the temptation is that he'll just drift on. To a lesser degree, this is true of people coming out of mental hospitals, especially if their families can't tolerate their behaviour, if it's still a little bit strange and so on.
What about prevention now for young people, for example?
Well, I think this can start very early on. At the moment, we have nothing in this country corresponding to youth employment services in other countries. And this is a service whereby young people leaving school are interviewed and are asked what sort of jobs they'd like to go on and are geared towards these sort of jobs. But more important still than the advisory side of it, a youth employment service will catch the ones who've been unsuccessful in their first few jobs. And I think very often our drifters come from this group. They've tried one thing, maybe two things, they've failed at it and they've given up. And they've seen other people get a livelihood by not working, living on the dole and so on, just living from day to day. But a youth employment service can catch these people up to the age of 21 and can help them to really find a way of life that is suitable for them. Because if you look around, there is a way of life for everyone if you can find it.
With regard to hostel accommodation and providing subsistence, is there not a danger that we may in fact encourage people to remain in this kind of idle life by providing them with this sort of service?
Yes, but what's the alternative then? To leave them live in the streets or in shacks and so on? I think we've got to accept that there always will be a minimum number of these people who cannot provide for themselves because they haven't been as lucky as others, either in terms of mental ability or emotional stability and so on.
The poor we will have always with us. No matter how carefully we distribute our resources, no matter how much we blur the line of distinction between the haves and the have-nots, we can never reach a final solution to the problem. We can help those who are in want, we can help them if they allow us to help themselves. We can try to ensure that young people are not left drift into a life of idleness and dependence upon others. But no matter how carefully we align the social ladder, there'll always be a bottom rung. There'll always be those who are unable to cope with the problems of living, those who have no hope of this world or the next, those for whom happiness equals a flask of wine, a loaf of bread, and 5 cigarette butts.
That's all for the present. Until our next programme, good night. God bless you.